President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by actor John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., while he was watching the play Our American Cousin. President Lincoln started off the morning as a normal day. He had breakfast with his son Robert, who had returned from serving on General Grant's staff in the Civil War. April 14th was a Friday, so there was a presidential cabinet meeting, which officials like Lincoln and Grant attended. Later in the day, after the cabinet meeting, Lincoln rode in a horse and carriage and made his way to Ford's Theater to watch the play Our American Cousin. Once arriving at the theater, Lincoln and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, made their way up to the president box to view the play. Later, at 10:15 p.m., John Wilkes Booth snuck into the president box and shot President Lincoln in the back of the head. After assassinating President Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth jumped onto the stage, shouted "Sic Semper Tyrannis," and ran away to his nearby horse, escaping the scene, breaking his leg in the process. President Lincoln did not die immediately after being shot. He was carried across the street to Peterson House and died at 7:22 a.m. the next morning. And as Edwin Stanton would say, now he belongs to the ages. President Lincoln's death was a sad occasion to Americans. He achieved a lot as president, such as working to abolish slavery. Meanwhile, John Wilkes Booth was on the run for 2 weeks after shooting Lincoln until he was later found and killed. Vice President Andrew Johnson took the oath of office, becoming president after Lincoln died. Meanwhile, Lewis Powell, who was a part of Booth's crew, stabbed Secretary of State Seward, whose wounds were not fatal. However, George Adsterhott failed to do his job of killing Vice President Johnson. After Lincoln's death, Americans were afraid of what was to come regarding Reconstruction. They feared President Johnson, having been a former Confederate, would not be able to carry out Lincoln's ideas of Reconstruction. There were many failed acts, but eventually Johnson passed the 14th and 15th Amendments, which aided Reconstruction tremendously.